Hello there, elementary fans. Loxman again, your resident elementary enthusiast, and I'm here to show you the first of these first-party reviews that I had in mind for elementary apps that ship with the operative system. And we're going to start with one of the most used apps in a modern setting, in a modern desktop, which is a web browser. In this case, the elementary team has opted for the lightweight browser Midori instead of more resourceful or more featureful browsers like Mozilla Firefox or Google Chromium, the open source alternative to Chrome. But the idea is to see how they operate, how it operates. Basically, oops, let's start from the beginning. Okay, so we have here the beta side of elementary. As you can see, it's still in the beta subdomain, so it's still not live. If you go to the standard subdomain, you'll get to the Luna landing page, which is kind of old. Here you have it. Okay, let's see. So the point here is that, as you can see, it works pretty well. Doesn't take any long time doing things, which is what we expect in a browser. And we're going to go with one of the good things here.
You've seen a lot of technology ads before. You know the kind. I say something like, "Hi, I'm Peter, and I'm a music lover," and then spend a bunch of time telling you about some product that's good for that stuff. This isn't one of them.
So, the idea here is that you can see that YouTube videos are played properly in the app. As you know, YouTube switched recently from Adobe Flash to HTML5, which means that that's great for Midori because Midori has never supported Flash, as in normally. Midori is conceived as a lightweight browser, so it never was intended to support Flash. There's a way for it to support Flash, but it's very convoluted. And the fact that more and more sites, not just YouTube, but lots of video sites and the like, are supporting HTML5 instead of Flash, make it more and more useful every time. Of course, if you have a site or a couple sites or whatever, if your usage pattern requires sites that are still using Flash, the Midori is not the browser for you. Aside of that, let's just look at the functions that you have. So you can see we have a very clean interface. This is a back button, forward button, reload button, of course. This is a new bookmark. This is the bookmark management place. And we have here an RSS button, I guess for the journal thing. To use the above URI, open a news aggregator. That is usually a menu or button news description of news feed or general. Okay. Anyway, as you can see, we have a lot of things here, but we're not going to be adding a new feed here because that's what we have standard. We also have separate feed readers, and I am not sure how useful an application for that would be. However, we're going to see the applications actually. As you can see, well, we have sparse number of functions we can create. Of course, we have tablet browsing. We can renew windows. We have port mode. Of course, you can find words in the side, print, go full screen, and we have a bar here in the left. Let's show it. Here we have this bar. It's the bar which has the more functionality. So the functionality is also replicated here, as in you can go, for example, to history or to transfers. But if you don't want to go to the cogwheel menu, you can activate it from here. This is the bookmark manager. This is the history manager. This is the download manager, so to say. And this is the applications manager. This application manager is nice because it allows you to create web apps like this one. that I have added here. This is my LastPass vault. Of course, I'm not going to be signing in here right now, but it shows a Chromeless window, which allows you to sign in. And I think this thing about web applications is a good idea when you want to go to a site, for example, that you visit and you are logged in or things, but you don't want to be loading the whole browser or whatever. You just want to browse through the site. And I think this Chromeless window can work pretty well for that limit. Or if you purposely want your users to be limited, then having this direct access to the web application that even shows up here. Important. It shows up in the menu, the slingshot launcher. I think it's a nice feature, this web app thing, even if it has limited use cases. That's fine. Side of that, we do have a couple of things related to bookmark management, importing, exporting, adding. Of course, we do have our private data management, which is pretty so to say granular in that you can separate your history, cookies, web cache. Well, I mean, this is standard functionality, I think. But the fact that it's covered is nice. It's not. We're not talking about we're not talking about a bare bones browser, but a functional one. Side of that, we do have a couple of things in the preferences, which are fine. Mostly standard things like startup behavior of the browser itself, interface. This is called browsing for some reason, but it's also actually mostly user interface, network preferences, privacy settings like cookies or history, deletions, and the like. And aside of that, we have a couple of extensions. However, what I find most jarring is that there is no first party or third party download password management in Midori itself. The problem comes obviously because you have a certain in 2015 it's pretty useful. It's mostly a requirement for an application for a web browser to be able to store passwords, because of course users navigate through lots and lots of sites, and it's true that Midori can render them, but if you can't have your password stored somewhere, I don't mean that they have to include some sort of sync functionality, but as it stands, Midori cannot even save your passwords locally, so it's pretty limited in that way, and therefore, unless I mean it's a good browser, it can open very complex sites like The Verge. We're going to see it. It can open The Verge like a champ in a very quick time, and The Verge is a pretty big site. But of course, if you don't have standard functionality like password management or password storing of some sort, then the functionality of the browser is limited. You can even, for example, unlike Chromium and Firefox, you can actually even use your hands. You can even use the touchscreen to navigate through the sites in a very let's say elementary, in the bad sense, fashion, because you just have the possibility to scroll with the hands, with the fingers. You can't, for example, pinch to zoom or do complex things. But the fact that you can't have this function of password storage of some kind limits the functionality of the app for cases where you don't need that password management, which is, let's say, a more limited use case. If I would say that if Midori managed to integrate a a password manager, then Midori would be perfectly capable of being a daily driver for a standard user, because the Flash thing is simply a thing of the past. That is, no, I believe that. Well, it's not like that. I believe Flash is going the way of the dodo, so it's not like people expect now to have Flash support added, particularly when it hasn't been purposefully added in the first place. But the password management thing is a very a sin that is hard to forgive, and it mm, doesn't make Midori a candidate to to replace Midori or to replace Firefox or Chromium. If they get to implement a good password storage or management application of some sort, extension or functionality or first-party functionality of some sort, then they will probably cover most use cases, and I would say that lots of people would use Midori actually. As it stands, I cannot recommend Midori for spin. I mean, you can give, sorry, let's be more precise. You can give Midori a spin, but yeah, in the end you will be switching to either Firefox, which looks pretty fine in elementary, as you have seen from my other videos, which I recorded with Firefox as the browser, or you can go with Chromium. But if I recall correctly, Chromium does have an elementary theme as well, which is a nice thing. So you also would have it elementary themed, so to say. Well, this is a bit of what elementary can do for you. Midori can do for you. Stay tuned for more reviews. The next thing that we'll be reviewing will be Jiri, the email client of that ships with elementary. Stay tuned for the next one.